Hey everyone, this is Pig for Life, and today's Toy Dojo sponsor review is covering Mastermind Creations R06 Tigris, their version of the Decepticons Predacons Rampage. As always, let's get started with packaging review. And we've become very familiar with Mastermind Creations reformatted packaging up to this point, with Hexatron as well as the rest of the Feralcons. We've seen this nice box with the grid pattern and the nice CG render on the front of Tigris. Mastermind Creations boxes aren't too exciting. On the side, they usually just have more information on, the name. Maybe a product image on this side, the same thing except just the CG image. The top, another product image. The bottom, just a bunch of warnings and how to get in touch with them on Facebook, as well as their website. So the only other really interesting part of their packaging is typically the back, which is also nicely done. So if we zoom in, you can see that they have a nice set of product images, both in robot and alt mode at the bottom here. But they also have a really interesting view of Feral Rex, the combined form of this group. And they always kind of highlight the current figure that's in the box here. So you can see Tigris colored here and the rest of the figures kind of, grayed out. Zooming back out, we do get to see the product itself if we open the magnetic latch, and we can peer right in and see Tigris as well as some of his accessories. And on the inside of the flap, we see another kind of rendered line art and render of Tigris. All right. So to get this guy open, we'll just open him up from the top, pull him out, and more of the same packaging. Mastermind Creations does a really good job with packaging. They have this additional piece of cardboard here. They have the clamshell. And with this guy, we have a number of different accessories that comes with him. So before we get into the figure, I'm going to go into some of the accessories. So we get the typical instruction booklet that is also doubling as a comic. So this is issue 6 of the comic book series. But what is also interesting is that you get a ton of extra stuff with this guy. In addition with the bio card, let me see if I can zoom in real quick. With the stats on the back. And the artwork is done by the same artist, Unicron WMD, who's done all the images so far for the Feralcons. But I wanted to come in because I wanted to show you guys this additional accessories kit. So in addition to the extra elbows that we got 2 sets of extra elbows for Bovis or Fortis if yours were your gears or ratchets were kind of ground up due to their manufacturing mistake. They put that in so you guys can replace that, and that's pretty easy. But what's interesting is the completion kit is what they're calling it, and what it is a set of accessories that kind of act as arm fillers and additional pieces like weaponry for the rest of the kit, the rest of the figures in the Feralcons. So the one piece here is the hip armor piece, and this is just a colored piece that plugs on to this section here of Leodux's armor and covers up the unpainted area, which was a manufacturing mistake. And I'll show that off in 1 second. So here we go. I can get him to stand up. So as you can see on the top area here, there is no gold paint, and that was a mistake in manufacturing. Masterminds kind of admitted to that, and so they went ahead and brought this piece, manufactured this piece, and it just has 2 tabs on the back, here and here, that go into corresponding slots here. And all you do is plug that in and push, and that's it. While it's not totally cohesive since you have this piece and it sticks out a little bit, it's nice that they did that. I mean, they really probably didn't have to do that, since you could have just painted it gold yourself, and which would probably look better, but they did, so that's nice. The other pieces are this collection of basically 6 of these. And these are arm fillers for Fortis, Bovis, and Talon, who I have here. So when you transform these guys into robot mode, you have a small gap. And what these pieces do is fit in there. You gotta kind of get them fitted in there. There we go. It didn't fit in correctly. But you use it to fill in the arm gap. And then there's extra accessories like this, this kind of sword dagger piece that makes use of that slot. And there's other options like these kind of missiles, as well as these kind of cannons, extra cannons. And they all work interchangeably. You can use them with any of the arm fillers for Bovis, Fortis, and Talon. And that, again, that's just a nice thing that they did. They didn't really have to do that, but they did. Okay, so let's get this guy out of the way. And then we can actually get into the robot mode review. So let's look at Tigris right here. And he looks really nice in his clamshell. He does come packaged in robot mode. It's always nicely packaged. There usually is a piece of tape that goes on top of here. I actually removed mine already, but they did that so that it doesn't get damaged in packaging. And taking out the other accessories like the concussion cannon, which is typically associated with Razor Claw, the leader of the group, but due to just packaging space, since Leoducks already came with all those big swords and so forth, they packaged this with Tigris. Alright, so let's go ahead and get straight into robot mode review. And as usual, I want to start off with the head sculpt, also because there's something interesting to note. So you'll see that Tigris comes with his red mask. And some early adopters that ordered from certain retailers actually got a yellow mask and got the red mask in the completion kit. And that's just because they had like an earlier run, and the actual final choice was to provide a red face. And so they got those as well. Most other retailers just got the red face. I mean, there's not much to say about the head sculpt here since it is mostly face mask, but he does still have, and it's going to be kind of hard to catch, but he does have those metallic red eyes. I don't really care which face mask. I guess the red one, I prefer the red one slightly, but the yellow one's also good too. It really depends on what you're trying to match. If you're trying to match the figure, the G1 original figure, or the cartoon, or the comic, and so forth. Alright, so as far as robot mode review, let's go through articulation. Nice ratchets here, arm swivel, ratchets going out on the shoulders. He does have a hand swivel and double jointed elbows. Actually, kind of like almost, he has double jointed elbows, but he also has a bicep kind of joint up here as well. As for this side, we have waist articulation here and at the top. And the reason why you have 2 joints for the waist articulation is for his arm mode for the most part, and to make use of this ab crunch, which acts as the elbow, part of the elbow joint. Okay. His head is on a ball joint, which I didn't mention before, so he gets that 360 view. You can look up, and you can look down a little bit, and the head is also on a panel as well. And this is really just for arm transformation. It needs to kind of get out of the way to get this ratcheting joint to move a bit more. Okay. His head does have, his alt mode head is on a ball joint as well. You can open it up if you want to display his mouth open in robot mode. His legs are ratcheted both ways. He gets a nice range of motion. can go forward about 80 degrees. You can go backwards about the same amount as well. No, probably less than that actually. For here, he does have a upper knee swivel. And he does have these leg, I guess, thickeners, which swivel around. They did kind of a poor job this time on the mechanism that they had for Bovis and Fortis. They actually had more slots here that these pegs kind of went into. But you can see here that they don't have those, and so it doesn't stick into the leg very closely. Same thing with Talon. I don't know why they didn't do that. Alright. He does have a knee joint, a little bit over 90 degrees. And then he does have the foot, which is kind of standard for the Feralcons. It's on like a hinge back here, a pinned hinge there, and then it's on a ball joint. The foot's on a ball joint. So it gets a lot of range of motion, but it comes at the price of kind of being gappy if you open it up a little bit. And then lastly, he does have toe/heel bend, like a foot bend. So you can go on his toe if he wants, or you can go back on his heel if he needs to. And that's basically it for his articulation. So robot mode, I really like this guy. I think he's smack dab in the middle of the group as far as my ranking. He's really easier to, I guess, mess around with and pose than the rest of the Feralcons. As far as, well, maybe except with the exception of Talon, but he doesn't have the backpack, so it doesn't kind of get in his way. But he is really fun in that respect. So some of the other things, I think he does a pretty good job with the representation of Rampage. It's, again, a modernization, which I always loved about Mastermind Creations. They're not too slavish to G1. Take a look at his back. And he has some spikes here, which I'm not really familiar whether that was part of his look on the G1 toy or not. Got a side view here and a side view here. But overall, I think he's really fun and a good representation of Rampage. One thing that I will note though is that when mine came, his shoulders were down like this. It's actually on a L joint, each of his shoulders, and I believe the proper transformation is supposed to actually have his shoulders slid up like so. I actually don't like this with the big shoulders, but given the instructions, they actually show you to have it this way. But again, it's up to you how you want to display them. As far as his weapons go, he does have the concussion blaster. He doesn't have a port on his arm to fit it. That really is meant to go with Leoducks, but I guess you can make use of the peg and plug into his shoulder. That's really the only spot you can plug it into, except maybe somewhere on the back as well, these pegs. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like on Leoducks, you can just bring him in and you can see there's a peg right there for him. And there you go. Okay, so again, really just an accessory that was packaged with him, not really meant for him. But he does come with a lot of other stuff. He does have these two daggers, paired daggers, which are thermal daggers, I guess, that's what they call them. And again, same kind of champagne plastic. And it's hard to tell, but each of the blades is painted as well, this kind of gold champagne color. And as usual with this set of figures, you have to put it in a very particular way. You gotta have to slide it in at an angle since it's not a circle. You can't really easily insert it from the top straight on. You basically have to insert it, rotate it, and then push it in to get it to go all the way in. So it's a little difficult, but if you're familiar with this set, it's gonna be nothing new to you. It does have pegs on both sides of the hilt, so you can plug that in the shoulder mode. or if you want, you can plug it in one of these back ports. In addition to his melee weapons, he does have these rifles, which are kind of short, but they're called rifles as opposed to handguns. And these you can just slide right in. I like these guns, also because they're not just molded plastic in a single color. They do have, see if I can focus in, they do have painted details on it in this kind of gunmetal gray color. And again, you can make use of the ports on the shoulder or the back to store. But that's really it for robot mode. I'll go ahead and jump right into robot to all transformation. So as far as robot to all transformation goes, I'm going to go with the official starting position with the shoulders up. If you had it down already, you can kind of skip that first step. But we'll go ahead and pull down, because these are on a kind of an L-shaped sliding mechanism. So these need to come down. And then they actually need to pull forward. Well, it might actually be easier to turn them first and then push it downwards. It's really hard just because these spikes are in the way and you could easily hurt your hand doing it. But it's not too terrible. Try to put as much pressure on the inside of the joint as possible. Not like pushing from here, because you don't want to damage it. So don't push from the outside of the joint. Push as close to the joint as possible. All right. We can go ahead and deal with the fist. The forearms open up and you just rotate the fist in and close that up. Same thing on the other side. Just open it up, flip these in, close it up. To deal with the head, you basically turn it around and then fold it flat. You're gonna pull this alt mode head up, which is on a hinge, and then also this chest piece is on a sliding mechanism that rotates around. So working in conjunction and flipping the head around, you get the alt mode head situated correctly. You can see a little bit of the robot, but if you position this hinge correctly, you can kind of hide it. It's not totally hidden, so it's a little weak in that respect. Oh, and I forgot to mention it, but this what used to be the hidden combiner port, actually if you open that up, there's a small molded bomb. Oops, sorry, it flew out. This little bomb piece accessory. And if you order from Planet Steel Express, you actually got like a silver or metal chromed one. But yeah, that's just one other gimmick accessory that you can make use of, and you can just pop that back in and close it up. So sorry about that slight detour. Now we're done with the upper body, but going to the lower midsection, because you have that ab crunch, you can actually make use of it in really interesting ways. I'm just going to leave it like this for now, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. As far as the leg goes, the easiest thing to start with is pulling the foot straight back and then rotating the heel through, and then making use of this tab is going to plug into this this slot here, but you can't do that immediately, and I'll show you why in a bit. So just wrap it around, but don't peg it in yet. Open up the legs, the leg panels from the back, and you're going to want to rotate this all the way in. So, if you had the thigh pieces on the side, you're going to want to rotate them to the back at that point if you hadn't already. But mine were already out, so just rotate the legs all the way up. Same thing on this side. And then close up the leg panels. And before you tab in the feet, you need to actually take these heels, which are also on a rotate, on kind of on a post here, and they rotate all the way around, and tab in to this section here. Then you can tab in the feet. So we can do the same thing for this side, tab that in, rotate the feet down, and tab it. Because if you do it before, then the feet are going to get in the way. Okay. And then you can rotate either at the lower hip or the upper hip to get the legs facing the right way. You're going to want to now bring this tail down. Just pull it out from a small tab that it's kind of resting on. Just pull it out and straight out. And then you can tab the two halves together. Dealing with the legs is pretty easy. You need to, there's two posts. That the bottom one's kind of hard to see, but just pull out on the legs and rotate them downwards. Pulling out on the legs and rotating them downwards. From here, you have these thrusters. You're going to open those up. Just push up on the thrusters. And then you'll get the foot. What you're going to want to do is rotate, grab here, and rotate it down all the way. You'll stop right here, and then you just want to stick your finger in and grab the heel and pull that out. The paw, I guess. Pull that out. Once you have that done, rotate the paw 180 degrees and close up the top panel. Okay, same thing on this side. Just pull out on the leg. When it stops, pull on the heel. Rotate that out. Rotate the paw 180 degrees and close up the leg panel. And with that, we're in alt mode. So as far as alt mode review goes, he looks quite good. I mean, he's not perfect. There are a couple of things that don't look really nicely, especially from the top here. You can see his legs and his waist. So that doesn't look particularly good, and people complain about, because that's exactly how it's going to look in elbow mode as well. They say it's kind of a really weak looking elbow joint. But overall, I think they've made a lot of improvements. The legs are much better than Leo Dux's hollow, thin legs. There's still a little bit of hollowness in the back here, but not too bad. The bottom, he does have the combiner ports and these pegs here, which look a little weak, but again, who's really going to be looking at it from the bottom? His head sculpt looks pretty good in alt mode. Very, I guess, tigerish. As far as posability, he does have his mouth again, his ball jointed head that's also on a hinge. And again, depending on how well you work with this joint, you can minimize that gap, as well as the viewing of the robot mode head. His forelegs are the same joints, he's the same as his arms in robot mode. You get a lot of joints of posability. His toe here is on a pinned hinge and can also rotate. His back leg, you can rotate it on that. I think it's a ball joint. Oh no, it's just a post up here, and then it has a separate joint that lets you go out, a hinge that goes out. He has a joint at the elbow, not knee, like kind of at the knee, and then at the, I guess, what would be, I guess, the elbow, and then at the paw. Not really sure. His tail is pinned here and also has a pinned hinge here that can get some decent motion, range of motion, about 80 degrees. He does get a lot of range of motion with the waist, so this is all up to how creative you are. So he does get a little bit of leg motion that he can bend back just from his legs, his robot mode legs. It doesn't go the other way, but so you get kind of that range of motion. And if you combine that with the ab crunch, obviously you can get a really weird pose. What I like to do is actually rotate the orange piece so that it bends down, because then you can have a bend here and still have some bend that way if you want. But since this can rotate in any direction, you can actually use it to bend sideways or bend at an angle, and you can have him kind of curl around in more feline poses. So that's really up to, I guess, your level of creativity and messing around with that joint a lot. So that's really good. One other thing I'll mention is if you rotate the upper body so that the holes and the combiner port are on top, and then rotate the arms, or the legs, the front legs, and the head, so they're looking proper. You can actually make use of the combiner ports on the back and posts in the back, and bring in Talon's wings and peg them in to get a flying tiger mode. Which looks pretty cool in and of itself. So it gives you more use of the really nice Talon wings. Alternatively, instead of using the wings, you can use the ports to store the gun here, or the thermal dagger. Same thing with the arm ports again. I've never been big on alt mode weapon storage unless it made sense, but there's an option. You can also take the concussion blaster and use those ports, but what you're supposed to do, I think, and it's not even shown in the directions, is that at the bottom of this concussion blaster, there's a little piece that I'm going to try to get out. Well, I'm going to have to get it out to show you guys, but this piece rotates around. Mine's really, really tough to get out, but you can rotate it out. And what I found you use this for is actually in alt mode, or even in arm mode for that matter, I guess. If you split the legs, there's little slots here on each side, and you use those. Close that around. It's kind of tough to do while on camera, but if you close that around, you can actually put the cannon on Tigris as well. Again, I didn't notice that at first, but after messing around with him for a while, it became apparent that's clearly what that's for. I think you may be able to use it in arm mode as well if you flip it the other way. I'm not sure though, because it's not a perfectly square peg slot, so maybe you can make use of it in that mode as well. Nope, you can't. So really it is only for alt mode to peg in this way. And again, I apologize, it's just kind of hard to do this while on camera as well. But yeah, so then let's get him positioned correctly. So yeah, so then you can have him all weaponed out with the cannon on the back and the guns on the front shoulder pieces. And that looks pretty cool too. I don't know if anybody's shown that. Maybe they did. I haven't seen it in other reviews. But yeah, that's kind of cool. Once I found that out, I was a lot happier with him being packaged with that gun than Leodux. Or at least it was acceptable. And that's it for alt mode review. Let's get this guy back into robot mode. So first thing I like to do in robot mode is just deal with the upper body, just because I feel it's easier. Go ahead and open up the legs and get the wrists and hand rotated out. You can rotate the head around, pull down the chest and the head, alt mode head, to get that all the way positioned correctly. Then you can deal with the robot head, just flip it up and then rotate it around. When you rotate the arms forward, again, it's on that sliding L joint. The proper way to handle it is to push back all the way, and then the shoulders will be more correctly aligned, and then you can push them up again to get into the official robot mode. I actually prefer it this way, so I'm going to leave it this way, but you can slide it up. Now dealing with the lower body, let's rotate at the red waist piece, or depending on how you had a position, you might have to rotate the orange piece as well. Dealing with the legs, open up the thrusters on both sides, and then rotate the paws 180 degrees again. And when you plug these, well, when you close this piece, you want to get the claws positioned so they go through this gap. Otherwise, you're going to have problems closing the leg. Okay. And you're going to rotate that through, and if you did it correctly, the claws will come out through here and it will actually close all the way. And then you can close up the thrusters. So let's see on this side if I was successful. So go ahead and rotate the knee through. Yep, and the claws pop straight out. If you get stuck, just fiddle around with it. You can usually grab onto the claw down here and pull it out. And then close out the thrusters. Once that's done, you want to rotate the leg piece so that the thrusters are facing forward, or I guess in this case up, on the shins. And then there's 2 posts that they peg into. Split the legs. You can deal with the tail now, just straighten it out, and then there's a little indentation here with a corresponding piece there. You just kind of stick it into place. It doesn't tab in tightly or anything like that. So when you rotate this guy around, you want to pull the feet up first, untab them, and then again you need to deal with the knees. Just push down kind of on this side gently, and it should pop right out, and you rotate that around. You can open the leg panels and rotate the legs out like so. Close the leg panels and they tab in right here. And then straighten out the foot, pass it through the heel section. You might get a little bit of resistance, but that's okay. You just gently nudge it through and have it come forward. Lastly, if you want to do the thigh pieces, you can do that, but I'm not going to do that because it looks silly. And then we have him back in robot mode. The one thing I said I would show you guys, which I did earlier, is again you can make use of the ports on the back and plug in Talon's wings in both the alternate transformation I showed you in alt mode and also here in robot mode. So you get a lot more use of those Talon wings than just Talon. You can use them on Tigris, you can use them on Leoducks as well. Be careful that these wings do kind of sometimes hit the spikes on the back of Tigris. But again, that's an option you have. So as far as final thoughts on this guy, I really like him. I think he's my second favorite of the entire group of Feralcons / Predacons. I like Talon the most just because of his awesome wings. But yeah, this guy's highly posable, a lot easier to deal with. There's not a lot of stuff on him, so that gets in the way, which is really nice. So he's fun to pose. The only downside, I guess, in robot mode that I didn't point out before were I like the slim ninja-like form that he has, and these detract from it. And this is kind of like a theme through Mastermind Creations. They have these extra pieces on the legs for Tigris, Fortis, Bovis, and then even in combined Feral Rex form, which I'll do a review on later, he kind of has more kibble hanging off his lower calf area than I would really like. So a continuing theme, but overall I like him. So obviously if you've picked up some of these guys, I'm imagining you're going to pick them all up as a group, and then probably combine them into Feral Rex or Predaking. So if you've got one, you're probably going to get them all. So my opinions are that if you have one, obviously get him. It's probably a lot harder to justify just buying him just for him, because at the price, which is around $100, I'm not sure if he's a $100 figure if you're not going to make use of all 3 of his modes. His alt mode's a little weak, and if you don't have like the cool Talon wings to make use of those ports on the back here, I don't think he'd be a $100 figure. I don't think there's enough cool stuff going on, like transformation wise or anything pretty simple, that would justify a $100 price. But again, for a combiner, when he's combined to Feral Rex, he looks awesome, and I think that's what a lot of people are willing to pay a little bit more than this individual is worth individual figures worth than just to get that combined form. Okay? As always, if you liked the video, please thank it, share it. Also, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe. If you like this guy and want to pick him up for your own collection, go ahead and click on the link below in the description, and I'll have a link for Toy Dojo where you can pick them up. They were the sponsors of this review. And I think that's it for today, guys. Everyone have a good one.